the skies, and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did cry out for a saviour, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Plz. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks, you're tuned into Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Welcome to the show. I'm still here and my mic is falling backwards. If I did the entire show in musical form, I bet you would all really, really object. Oh, well, yeah, this is Blue Plz. We talk about World of Warcraft in a rather cynical fashion. As it should be, in my honest opinion. What's been happening this week? Bugger all, would be the accurate answer to that. So, apparently, druids didn't get nerfed quite as badly as they thought, so the whining kind of staved off. Our main tank went in to go and tank something and everything was absolutely fine. The added threat's great, the bleed components are all good, everything is fine. Oh, the druids lost 2k hit points. Yes, you lost 2k hit points, now you only have 17k buffed in blues. Good lord in heaven. Right, okay, so Blue Plz, we talk about WoW, that's the whole plan. Now, over the past few weeks we've been doing something that I like to call
Second Wind,
where we create this kind of continuity between shows in some kind of serialized fashion. Since I've discovered that people like listening to things that have some kind of continuity from week to week, rather than just me sitting down and bollocking on for an hour and a half. I can do that anyway, but it's going to be with continuity. It's going to be continuous bollocking on for an hour and a half. From week to week, from topic to topic, it's really quite hypnotic. Yes. Now, last week's Second Wind that we set out for you gave you something to think about, something to roll your brains over for a week and try and get some replies in and see what you think. I got some really good replies, actually, to this. Last week's Second Wind was, is raiding and endgame content becoming too hard and too inaccessible? An interesting question, I thought. Had some good replies in. So, I shall read a few out for you. Mr. Sarville is from the guild Synergistic, and he's on Deathicus US, and he says, "Hey TB, there is a cold hard truth here that people can't glance over. If your guild cannot get keyed, your guild cannot take Karazhan. Why would Blizzard turn down the difficulty from the original WoW or make epics available for everyone? The problem I see is the mentality of the people who insist that content is too hard. Heroic 5-mans are raid content. My guild and I approach them as we would a normal raid. Except with significantly fewer people, of course. This is not a bad thing. It's easier in a 40-man to blend in than a 5-man. Your individual skill and gear show up vividly in 5-mans. These 5-mans are great at their current difficulty. Sure, we wipe now more than I'd like, but every time we wipe, we get up and we learn from it. As a result, our guild gets better and better every single night. Potions help out greatly, but we have had runs without them. Potions make a big difference, but so does playing smart. Good class balance and intelligent spec and the willingness to trust everyone to do their job. We as a casual guild make progress weekly without sinking hundreds of gold into potions. Those who give up shouldn't earn the epics, plain and simple. If you don't have the focus or patience to wipe a few times a night, then just form an arena team and get epics that way. Thanks and sorry about the length. Keep up the great work. That's from Sarvel. A good point. Many, many good points made. It's interesting that people are actually starting to view heroic content as raid content, and actually having now tried it, I can see where they're coming from. It's hard. I remember wiping, I think it was 5 pulls into the slave pens on Heroic with a relatively decent group in Blues, and we did wipe on a pull. You know, the box drop pulls were all good, but when we were dealing with the nasty things with the pets and all that, with the psychic terror scream thing, ouch. Pain and suffering all around. It's difficult stuff. It really is difficult. And rather than saying, OMG, it is difficult, I don't like it anymore, I'm going to say, hey, that's difficult, awesome, let's crack on with it. A good way of doing things. So yeah, I believe that, of course, the Heroics are difficult enough. That, as we stated last week, they are nerfing Gruul, and they are nerfing Magtheridon, and they're planning on nerfing a few other things, making things a little bit easier, making the epics a little bit better. I'd, of course, agree that making the epics better is a good thing, because some of them are outclassed by Blues, and that's highly silly. But making it easier, not so much, not so much. Although some people will no doubt disagree with me. It's interesting stuff, no two ways about that. So, the question is it too difficult? A very, very tricky question. Anyone that wants to email in right now and see if they answer that question, you can. themurloc@gmail.com, as per the place where you email all your comments this week, themurloc@gmail.com. Now, I mean, the best way to describe this is the topic that I'm going to lead into after this. And I'm going to introduce you to that topic right now, so you can have a little bit of a think about it before I actually launch head first into it. I was thinking about this over the week, and I was thinking, well, is it difficult? Is it too difficult? Is it not difficult enough? What's going on with it? And I came to the conclusion that it's a very, very difficult thing to balance, exceedingly difficult thing to balance, and there's a reason for this. Now, I'm going to put this statement out in front of you before I finish up this week's second win, and I'll come on to this topic after the break. I'm going to put this statement out in front of you so that you can have a little think about it, and you can email in your opinions, right? Consider this. Okay? My argument is that the abandonment of legacy raid content has created a huge and almost untraversable disparity between guilds both attempting the same content. Yeah? So you're looking at guilds who are attempting Karazhan and Gruul right now, who haven't even got past Rag pre-expansion. We can't possibly expect them to fare very well. Now, here's the question. How far should Blizzard go to cater to these people? Because let's face it, they've dug their own grave right there. By creating this huge disparity between legacy raid content and what's going on right now, and assuming perhaps that people have already done all of these legacy raid content instances and are ready to deal with this stuff. And as we're seeing, Nihilum, yeah, they're doing well. Curse, D&T, all the big guilds, they're progressing well. The people who've done AQ40 and Nax, yeah, they're progressing well. And what about the people who haven't? And now there's absolutely nobody who wants to go back into those instances. Now, the argument that I'm going to put forward after the break in detail and give my explanation as to how you can fix that, is that because they've abandoned all these instances, they've created themselves a huge gap. Absolutely gigantic gap, which is not properly bridged. Which is why you have your hardcore guilds blazing through the content, at least Karazhan, Gruul, and then going on through that. And then you've got your guilds who are perhaps formed for the Burning Crusade, or didn't get all that far with legacy raid content beforehand, are wiping over and over and over again in Heroics, even on harder 5-mans, for God's sake, and not getting anywhere in Karazhan and wondering, well, what can I do to improve, rather than throwing myself up against this wall over and over and over again that we're clearly not tall enough to leap over. It's a very interesting and very problematic thing. So let's look at difficulty for a moment. Your logical progression. You do your 5-mans up to 70 in your gear, yeah? You key up for your keying instances. We're looking at stuff like Alcatraz. You key up for that, yeah? More difficult stuff in Alcatraz. Obviously, instances usually that involve getting a key are a little bit trickier. Shadow Lab the same. So you've got your more difficult instances that need to be keyed up for 5-man keys, you just walk in. Then you've got your heroic keying up, which requires you to run those instances up to Revered. So you're being encouraged to run your level 70 instances, as in your stuff like your Shattered Halls, your Steam Vaults, your Shadow Lab, and of course with Tempest Keep you don't really have to worry about that because they're all level 70 instances, so you can just run them anyway. But that's the kind of thing you're being encouraged to do. Okay, so you have to do that, and you get your revered key. Now what? What happens when you get your revered key? Okay, you've got your revered key, you can now do it in heroic mode, at which point the ramparts will kick the living snot out of you. Because you're looking at raid precision in there. You're looking at, say, just take an example of slave pens, because I've actually been in there, and I can point out from my own experience how difficult this is. You wander yourself in there, and you get out the first pack is those bog strocks that run around, those silly little crab type things, and they hit cloth for 4k. They hit the tank pretty damn hard too, so you dedicated healing on the tank, they take a lot longer to DPS down, and you've got to be really careful with your DPS, because you don't want to be pulling aggro on those things, and that's just the first pull in slave pens. That's tricky stuff. That's raid discipline that's required right there. That's back in the day, when you couldn't afford to pull a Molten Giant either. When you pulled a Molten Giant, it was like, GG nub, you just wiped the raid. It's killed you, and now it's running on the bloody healers. Congratulations. It's the same principle, only it's within a 5-man environment. Now, if this is the logical step up before you head into Karazhan, and you've got people that haven't raided before, then they're going to really have some problems. Now, is that acceptable? It's a very difficult way of looking at things. I would certainly say that heroics are more difficult than Molten Core used to be, even with a 40-man. They're damn tricky. Some of the bosses are absolutely obscene. Now, I haven't seen enough of them to judge against, say, Blackwing Lair and AQ40, but I have heard rumours, and I've heard people telling me, that they are incredibly difficult. Even for raiders. Raiders wiping it. I've watched Kiki going and doing heroics upstairs, and he wipes. They wipe in there all the time. It's worthwhile because they're acquiring the Badge of Justice, and they're also acquiring better loot. But it's raid discipline, it's raid principle, and it's damn difficult. Now, if you're expecting people who perhaps have maybe only done a bit of Molten Core to go from your 5-mans into your heroics, you're going to have some serious issues. Now, you can tell me that, oh, well, it's okay, you can train in your heroic... you can train in your 5-mans before you go into your heroics. You can trade raid skill in 5-mans, at which point your argument falls to pieces, of course, because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Of course you can't trade raid skill in 5-mans. You can't do it. It's not the same thing by any stretch of the imagination. Doesn't matter how hard that 5-man is and how much raid principle is involved, i.e. don't pull aggro, or you'll get hit for 4k. It doesn't matter, because that does not make you a raider. It doesn't train you to be a raider. It just makes a really damn difficult 5-man. For the love of God, this should be pretty obvious to people. They had the same problem back in the day with legacy content. The reason they brought Zul'Gurub in, it didn't end up being correct, because of course Zul'Gurub was far too difficult at the time. But the reason they brought in that was to give people a bridge between UBRS and of course your 5-mans like Scholar, Strat and DM. A bridge through to Molten Core, Onyxia and Blackwing Lair, okay? And that made sense, yeah? It was kind of misconceived, but their heart was in the right place. It's a shame it wasn't earlier. Of course, they didn't realise that there would be a huge jump. Because back in the day, Blizzard really hadn't planned Endgame to be, wow, all of this stuff. They added stuff in as they realised this is what people were going to do. They weren't going to flunce around role-playing. They weren't going to go and grind rep. They weren't going to PvP. They were going to do raiding. So like, okay, fair enough, raiding's our strong point. We've got the Molten Core, now we've fixed all the bugs in the Molten Core. What do we do? Well, there's the Blackwing Lair, there's for something after Molten Core. Oh, but there's all these guilds who can't actually really get anywhere in Molten Core. Okay, here's Zul'Gurub, here's your bridge. Which is fair enough, except for the fact that it was more difficult than Molten Core in many places. To be quite honest, it's interesting to see that Molten Core, Zul'Gurub and Blackwing Lair is perhaps the more correct way of looking at things, because Zul'Gurub's less tank and spank, whereas Molten Core was, of course, all tank and spank. And that's all that 5-man content is, tank and spank. But, of course, the difficulty and the amount of cohesion that you have to have with multiple tanks and cross-healing and how you function as a raid is a huge leap. Now, that was there, pre-expansion. So for those people who went through that content properly, I mean, say, for instance, I'm not going to have any problem dealing with Karazhan, because I've been in Nax. Anyone who's been in Nax, in fact, anyone who's been in, as far as I'm concerned, Blackwing Lair, understands raid principle. The bosses are a little bit more complicated in Karazhan, but as far as I'm concerned, if you've been into Blackwing Lair and you've got relatively far in Blackwing Lair, then you know raid principle, you know how to raid. You have been trained to do so. You can't train to do so in a 5-man. And when you jump over to Karazhan, you're thinking, well, WTF, this is too difficult. It's tricky stuff. Very tricky indeed. So what you've got there is a disparity. What you've got there is an intraversible leap for people. What Blizzard are trying to do is they are trying to make instances challenging enough for your hardcore raiders, but easy enough so that people who have not done all this content beforehand and haven't been raiding discipline and haven't been trained in what you have to do in a raid in general and how to work as a raid coherently with other people. They're trying to make it suitable for both, and it won't work. Absolutely it will not work. No way. I'm sorry, some of the stuff in Karazhan is too hard for people to do, if that's the position they're in. Yeah, if you're a hardcore guild, you can go through it. I mean, Kiki's guild's still wiping on Netherspite, and they got all the way to Thaddeus in Naxxramas. Now, of course, they could be a bunch of nubs. Hi, Shattrath Emporium on Defies Brotherhood. But it does show that it's difficult and challenging. That's fine. I think Karazhan is there, and Karazhan is the difficulty that it should be at that point. But if you see a guild flaunting it at Karazhan that's barely touched Molten Core before because maybe they were formed after the Burning Crusade, maybe they rolled up alts and they've leveled them up, and there's no reason to go back to these instances, how can you expect people to possibly do that? How can that work? I have an answer to that, and I hope you have an answer to it too. I'd like to hear your opinions on this. TheMurloc@gmail.com is the place to email. Send me a quick email during the music break. Now, just because it was so popular last week, and there was a competition last week to win Captain Dan albums that I called Where is the RP? And I'm going to extend that competition by popular demand, because I've had people emailing in saying, oh, but I don't have a mic. I don't have enough time to get my friends together and do a pirate impression for you. Well, you've got another week, folks, and I'm going to play some more Captain Dan right now. This is Captain Dan and the Scurvy Crew. Beware, there may be swearing. This is We Be Sailin', authentic pirate hip-hop. Enjoy.
Japan. We be sailing, swashbuckling rows of his foes, rolling in the port like no one knows. He's got deeds and mighty ships. We be sailing, war cannon teams at 6. We be sailing, when he comes to the shore on your door, you better give him all your money or prepare for a war. I've been sailing the seas for 10,000 days, breaking through the waves, setting ships ablaze. I'll kill your whole crew just to get me plunder. When my flags are sailing, yo, it's lightning and thunder. We're questing for these riches while smacking all your bitches. Nothing's left and the theft has left me crewing stitches, leaving all your gold and your jewels stolen. We'll take your spices and your nices to be sure to be sold. Now how many men want to join my crew? If you stay on your ship, then you're surely through. Join me if you want to sail into the blue, for the treasures and loot and the infamy too. If you're not in, fine, it's the end of your line. The sharks will eat you, happens all the time. All that's yours is mine when you've got no spine. We're sailing for the fame at the cost of your dime. The captain's got the plans. We be sailing, ship has got Japan. We be sailing, swashbuckling rows of his foes, rolling in the port like no one knows. He's got deeds and mighty ships. We be sailing, war cannon teams at 6. We be sailing, when he comes to the shore on your door, you better give him all your money or prepare for a war. We be some badass sailors, saluting the jailers, while your drive-bys leave bodies, our drive-bys be leaving craters. And we hear the bitches wail when we sail. We're never off beat, sail way, and then we spin and repeat. Sailing's a way of life, you looking so right. We're plundering, hear those cannons thundering, wondering, am I gonna see another day? Attacks underway, every boat we see is all you can steal buffet. We make ourselves prolific up and down the Pacific, specifically under the flag of pirates, heat of the deep. Being a pirate seems like the best place to be. From the crow's nest, no place nothing eludes me. You think you'll stay safe? Well, I disagree. I've sailed the darkest waters of the blackest sea. I'm enigmatic, erratic, my raids are traumatic. I settled distant by the shore through the diplomatic. The captain's got the plans. We be sailing, ship has got Japan. We be sailing, swashbuckling rows of his foes, rolling in the port like no one knows. He's got fleets and mighty ships. We be sailing, war casualties at 6. We be sailing, when he comes to the shore on your door, you better give him all your money or prepare for a war. The plundering was finished, the crew had been diminished. We left with no water and 4 tons of spinach. We scrambled from the frigate with our jewels and gold, piles growing so high you won't believe if I told. Avast, you rats, hurry, raise the mast, and don't run and shout, come about really fast. Volley the cannon blast, at long last, those bastards smash, their sails had crashed. Here comes some more, just look to the shore, they've got cannons galore, we can't hardly ignore our perilous fate, no time for debate. I became irate at their current state, I screamed all hands on deck, let's go, weigh anchor, the dirty deed is done, so long you wankers. We sail for the shore where we'll go to the stores, sell off all our booty and we'll plunder some more. The captain's got the plans, we be sailing, the ship has got your band. We be sailing, swashbuckling rows of his foes, rolling in the port like no one knows. He's got fleets and mighty ships. We be sailing, war casualties at 6. We be sailing, when he comes to the shore on your door, you better give him all your money or prepare for a war.
This is a tribute to Captain Dan. I decided I'd get Captain Dan involved in rapping the forums, in the sense of a new rap loop in the background. Are you ready? Yo, 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 phone shizzle and so forth, it's time for another edition of Rap in the Forums. Taking its amazing plundered loop from Captain Dan. That's Captain Dan. MySpace.com/Captain Dan. He has the plan. Okay. This thread's called Nerf Warden. It's by a very knowledgeable druid. It's pretty in that. Let's see how far I can get through before collapsing in a heap. It's a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. What for WTF have you done to my weapon, please? Come on, get serious. Even the level 60 PvP weapons and the blue level 70 GM mace is better now. FFS, get a group and pack all this crap. Be nerfing in. You mean the fix for the bugged in DPS? The DPS that failed to take into account the plus FFP, the one there's always the thread about. Not bothered about the other thread, but OMG, I wish I kept unstoppable for. Lol, that would be better now. Is it April Fool's Day? Cause I ain't getting it lol size. Some druids are just sad. I bet you're one of the sparrows with Crusader on their weapon. Hey, stupid head, go check armory, you now be gone. You're a druid whining about nerfing DPS of a druid weapon, and you call me nap and stupid head. How incredibly ironic is that? I hope you will understand someday. Yawn, you are so good for insomnia. Keep it up, you might get best night's sleep forever. And go check free TBCs. That's of Earth Warden. I compared it to, say, the GM Blue Mace. Then we compare, then SCFU, and you know why I'm moaning. Okay, stupid head, bye-bye now, yawn. Why us? People losing thoughts about this. It's a feral weapon-based DPS doesn't count in forms. This is a joke, right. Weapon DPS does not matter. For druids, Moonkins benefit from it, I believe, hence they benefited from the incorrect weapon DPS on Earth Warden. However, it was obviously a mistake, so there shouldn't really be cries of nerf. 05470, what? 54 points in feral, and the one talent you don't max out is feral instinct, and then you take 2 out of 5 Furo and 5 out of 5 in Muck of the Wild for those 7 points in Resto. Post-edited by Zathra. Shut the F up. Right back at your number. Interesting spec, I suppose. It's one way to make sure you don't miss any important talent. And the fellas who smiley face the same about the OOC, though. Not even gonna try explaining my build to you because you wouldn't understand. Now say what? No, you're both right. I wouldn't understand. Why the hell would someone take all of the feral talents except for the one that you want for both tagging and PvP, and then not take Furo, which is the most important talent outside feral trees for ferals. Only then he didn't take feral instinct. No one would understand your rather extremely silly build, or your lack of knowledge about how feral damage is calculated. That spec wins the internet. I should have looked at it before posting. I fully support the right for anyone to spec how they like, but the best I can say about that spec is put down the crack pipe and move away from the drugs. Move on to the second page. Objection! The DPS of your weapon does not affect your damage in cat or bear shape. Learn to play /flip. 2 points in Fura is enough for PvE to charge and start to gain aggro. Or what should I say? It's also enough for PvP to charge full of ice and then pop into cap, but that's PvP. So go judge someone else. ... I know full well what my build. Table off and the reasons why. TY ... The op is about the North Warden. Don't knock it till you try it. Don't be afraid to experiment, you might like it. Post-edited by Galadriel. No, 2 points in Fura is enough for PvE to have a 40% chance of charging. And to start gaining aggro ... It's also enough for PvP to have a 40% chance of being able to charge dash stun. And a 40% chance to be able to do something when you pop in the cat form ... Oh, we're talking about the Earth Warden. Okay, Earth Warden is a barrel weapon, and barrel forms don't look at normal weapon DPS, so it doesn't freaking matter what the hell happened to it. Weapon-based damage does not affect you in forms. The nerf is a correction. That is all it does to me, you clown. I spent effing hours grinding for it, nub. The nerf does not affect you at all. You can't even view it as a nerf, as it's just about correction, whatever. It's still a nerf. Definition of a nerf in the context of computer games, a nerf is a change to the rules of the game. That is generally considered to have a weakening or negative effect on the affected objects. The term nerf, originating from the depths of Ultima Online, relates to have nerf toys for children use safe, soft, foam and plastic. To mimic sports balls and guns. It's not considered to have a negative or weakening impact, as it doesn't affect you, so by your own definition, it's not a nerf. If you do consider it to have a negative or weakening impact, I suggest you read upon the most basic of the druid mechanics in it. There's also no negative or weakening impact on the weapon itself, as nobody will have used it for its melee DPS, so its use remains unaffected. Post-edit Bazafra. On G, WJFBBQ, you guys crack me up, learn your class.
Help, help, I'm being repressed!
Computer enhanced, digitally mastered, and completely downloadable. It's the really hyperactive and totally interactive WOW Radio. WCRadio.com.
Yes, indeed, folks, you're tuning to Blue Plz here on WOW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit, and yes, I did have a Warlock cast an ending breath on me for that one. I'm glad you liked that one. We actually have some guys from Captain Dan listening in right now, so a big shout out to them and hope I didn't completely murder your sample. MySpace.com/Captain Dan, folks. Captain Dan is the win, and we're giving away CDs live on the show today. Just give us your best pirate impression and email it to themurloc@gmail.com. That's themurloc@gmail.com. Record it for us. You have 1 week starting from today to do so. Oh, yes. Winners will be announced on next week's show. Oh, that was exhilarating. Let's get on with this. Let's see what we got. Now, I put this out for you. I put this theory out for you that the reason there is such a difficulty disparity right now is that Blizzard has completely abandoned Legacy Raid content. Okay? And I've had loads of people email in for this. Absolutely loads. I'm going to read some out before I go on with my possible solution. Oh, yes. One from Letter Messiah. This is, I think content isn't too hard, it just takes some getting used to. People who used to run UBRS and MC are getting owned, when people with more raid experiences will have the overall advantage. It's true, but then again, where's the bridge? Where is the bridge? Where is the bridge? How can we have the trolls under the bridge if there is no bridge for the trolls to be under? It's unacceptable. Yes. Okay, here's some more. David Nolan, also called as Pew, from Doomhammer EU. In my opinion, this content isn't too difficult. The rewards aren't the greatest in terms of the new tiers. They need to be changed and buffed a bit, but the content is doable. Like you said, while I was writing this email, you have the guilds like D&T and Nihilum and stuff burning through the content, but they're going for world first and the like, and use all the consumables needed for this. This causes people to go, oh my god, it's too difficult, we need pots. That's not true. My guild has only started doing Karazhan, and we haven't been requiring pots to get through the content, apart from the odd titans when the tank himself feels it's necessary. The DPS and whatnot can do, if they like, increase their DPS through pots to help the raid, but we're doing it fine at the moment, without huge numbers of consumables. I'd agree with to some degree there, has to be said. There are a few problems as regards to Karazhan, the fact that the first few bosses might be a bit too easy, and then after that it just gets ridiculous. May I cite as my example, Illhoof. Good lord. Right, more stuff. Good lord, that's a long one from Illurian. Illurian personally likes the difficulty of the heroic instances and that they added new abilities to the boss, which is a good thing. And he says this: I am my guild's third tank, and with my current tank gear I can tank the first 3 to 4 bosses of Karazhan without breaking a sweat. And to be honest, standard 5-man instances are a complete bore to me because it's simply not a challenge. Being prospect with 500 defense and 11k unbuffed, the simple fact is that I can play as sloppily as I want in basic 5-mans, and I can be pretty sure that the healer isn't going to have to break a sweat to keep me alive. I like that in instances I have to be on my toes, playing well and doing my absolute best to maintain aggro on multiple mobs. It provides a good, involving challenge for me, and it's the only thing I've found since Burning Crusade came out that gives me the real feeling of satisfaction when I down a boss, similar to when I was leading my former guild through 40-man raids in the day. I think if there was a way you could set instances like Molten Core to be a 10-player limit and make them drop the badges of justices from the boss, people would be more interested in going to them to learn the basics of raiding. Ah, a cunning stunt. Now, you see, Illurian is kind of on to what I was going to suggest, but I'll go on to that in just a moment. I'll continue his email. Because there are people in my current guild who haven't raided before, I attempted to get some basic Onyxia Molten Core runs organised so people would learn the basics. The problem is that none of my guildies are interested. They'd rather be doing quest chains in Shadow Moon Valley to get their level 70 items. And can you really blame them? Can you really blame them for that? I mean, we've only been into a legacy raid instance once, and that's because we were bored and decided we'd 5-man Bloodlord Mandakir, then tried to 5-man Jindo the Hexo and failed miserably. It was pretty horrible. What can I say? But yeah, interesting stuff. Now, one from Panacea, who's actually the main tank of my guild. And it says, there's a very easy answer to all of this. Karazhan is classed as a 10-man epic raid instance, emphasis on the epic. Now, to prepare people for this environment, there should be a 10-man raid instance, a relatively hard instance that requires team communication and for someone to take leadership, with, of course, pre-Karazhan loot. So it trains people for Karazhan. But there's also some cons to this. You'll still get pugs attempting to do it, which is no good, as they'll never work as a team. It's rare to get a pug to go on vent, or listen, and sometimes take leadership, so Blizzard would somehow have to implement it so that it's not too hard for a pug, but hard enough for guild groups to do it together. Well, to be honest, I have no sympathy for pugs. Absolutely no sympathy for pugs whatsoever. When Zul'Gurub came in, I was hoping for something that was too difficult for pugs to do, at least on a normal realm. Yeah? Of course, if you're going to pug with people who've been into Nax, then, you know, that's not too difficult. That's not really a pug as such. You're looking at people who are pre-raid, yeah? I mean, what he's trying to kind of get out there is that they need somewhat thing like UBRS. UBRS back in the day, when UBRS was actually difficult. You know, 15-man UBRS, difficult, teaches you some raid principles, but not all. He's looking for something like that, I feel. But obviously it's got to be remodelled and brought forward as something which is actually relevant to today's content, not the content 2 years ago. Not a good thing. But yeah, I do understand. I do actually understand his particular point there. Now I'm going to read one more email, and then I'm going to come up, absolutely come up, with my idea for fixing all of this that will all get ignored and not be implemented at all. I'll be willing to put money on that. I will in fact put £5 right now that this idea is not going to get implemented, despite the fact that as far as I'm concerned it's a good one. Now I'm going to read one more email first. This is from Heath. He says, I think what Blizzard is saying with 5-mans and heroic 5-mans is that being a raider is not about being in a big group. It's just a level of play. I was in a strong 40-man guild, AQ40, blah blah. I was so cool, but yeah, now only about 20 of our 40 can do heroics. What does that say? And only 10 of our 40 are at a level I would want to take into Karazhan with me. It tells me that 20 of my guild mates were not at raider quality in the first place. And it's something I've been seen slipping past for over a year. 70 is a wake-up call. You can't fall back on gear, you can't fall back on a guild tag, and most of all, you can't fall back on other players. Will it keep people playing at level 70 and keeping accounts active? If they're not playing at that level, probably not. A lot of my guild mates that used to be hardcore have turned casual with Burning Crusade because, frankly, it does seem that they don't play at the heroic/raiding level and are not going to bother putting in the hours. I'd rather this than having them fill my gruel runs. I'm happy with the 70 filter, as he's calling it. That's a very interesting way of putting it, the 70 filter. It keeps the people who should be raiding, even if they don't come from a raiding background, and keep the casuals in the right content. That's a really good email. I'm actually really intrigued by that idea that this is a 70 filter, and that it's kind of separating the men from the boys, as it were. Interesting view. I don't agree with it fully, But I do agree with quite a lot of it. That is a very interesting way of looking at things that, as you're probably well aware, at least in Molten Core and Blackwing Lair, you can have fluff in your raid. I don't believe you can have it at Cthulhu, because fluff in your raid getting killed means not enough DPS means you wipe good game. You don't want that to happen. It's the same with the harder encounters in Nax. You just don't have people dying. It's not a good idea. And if they're fluff and they get themselves killed, then more likely they're going to get other people killed as well. Again, not a good idea. Now, it has to be said, though, that if you've got fluff at AQ Nax level, I wonder how the hell you even got anywhere. Because you really need your focused raiders there. But I can see his point. I can definitely see his point that a 40-man raid gives more scope for slacking. You can get away with it, because you are only a cog in the machine, less so than you are in a 10-man, and certainly less so than you are in a 5-man, where you are, of course, required to play at your best if you're playing something that's difficult, i.e. a heroic. Now, as I throw this roll of package tape up in the air for no apparent reason in front of the microphone, I'd like to introduce my idea. Now, if Blizzard were to fix it, this is what I would do. If they were to fix it, I would take the old content. So we're looking at Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, Anchorage, and Naxxramas, and retune. Now, what do I mean by retune? Allurian suggested it earlier with the 10-man Molten Core idea. That's a very interesting way of looking at things. That is a possibility. 10-man Molten Core. We know it can be done, but we know it's relatively difficult. As in, it requires a coordinated raid group to do it. Now, if you were to put a 10-man cap on Molten Core, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I'd put a 15-man cap on Molten Core. At least at level 70. And say, right, okay, you've got to have 15 men in here, and this is how many you've got to work with. And why would anyone go in there, you might ask? There's no reason whatsoever. Badge of Justice is a good idea. I like that. Badge of Justice. How about a little bit of retuned loot? Maybe some different gems, some different patterns, a few pieces of epic gear. Retune some of it. Not all of it, but some of it. Here's another idea. Try making Tier 1 BOE. There's an idea for you, eh? Tier 1 BOE. So you can go in there, pick up all of this stuff, and take it out. Everything's now BOE. Stick it on the auction house, or give it to guildies that are level 60 that might actually have a use for the bloody stuff. There's an idea. Try that. Now, go on. Blackwing Lair. Maybe 20-25 man. I don't know how many it would actually take to take Blackwing Lair. Again, retune. Retune your loot. Not so much required for that. Make Blackwing Lair something that you can do at, say, level 60 to maybe 64, and maybe you want to do it at level 70, because maybe there are epic gems and that kind of thing. Now, take, say, Anchorage 40. Now, you can say, well, let's make AQ 40 a 25-man, and then you'll look at it and say, well, you can't do that. Why? Because, of course, Prophet Scarum's going to kick your ass, because you need 6 tanks. And you're not going to have 6 tanks necessarily in a 25-man raid. Okay, fair enough, let's retune. Let's change the encounter. Let's make him only spawn 2 images. Yeah, you can have 4 tanks in a 25-man, yeah? Okay, let's take another example. What about Huhuran? Huhuran, as you're well aware, the Dirty 15. You need to have 15 players in front in nature-resistant gear in order to take down Huhuran. Because otherwise, the poison goes everywhere and kills everybody. Take it down to 8. Take the ratio down. The Dirty 8 are now in nature-resistance gear and everyone else is DPSing. You don't even need to retune half this stuff. You don't need to retune Cthulhu. Cthulhu's probably going to be easier with 25 people. This can be done. And you've also got to bear in mind that wasting all of this content is damn stupid. How long did you spend, Blizzard, coding all of this stuff? All of these wonderful encounters in Anchorage 40 and Blackwing Lair, in Naxxramas, and all these really horrible encounters in Molten Core? How long did it take you? What about the 20-mans as well, you know? All this content is right there, and you could recycle it. You could do it, and it would be really easy. You just have to do a little bit of retuning. Give people a reason to go in there again. Then you have your bridge. You have your bridge between Karazhan. People go into Karazhan and start wiping. Like, right, well, we're getting owned in Karazhan. Okay, well, let's go and do Blackwing Lair. Let's go and do AQ40 and let's learn some principles. AQ40 and Nax are probably the best place to learn these principles. We're looking at stuff like, say, Netherspite. Netherspite is a fight which involves movement and placement. Yeah? You've got 3 laser beam pew pew things that are coming towards Netherspite, and you've got to get in the way of them. Otherwise, good game. You're out of it. Okay? That's a very interesting fight. Placement. What other fights require placement? Ooh, Cthulhu, for instance. Very big precision there involved. There are other fights that are a very good example of this that you simply cannot prepare yourself for beforehand. Fights which are not standard tank and spank. I mean, seriously, are you going to train yourself for Nightbane by doing a 5-man, or are you going to train for Nightbane by doing a really hard version of Onyxia, or even Sapphiron? Why not? Cut down a bit of the trash in Nax, cut down a bit of the trash in AQ40, make it doable in less amount of time. For God's sake, just recycle the instance and use content that's already within your game. Good lord, it's right there. You can retune it. You can add the loot which will encourage people to go in there. You can add epic crafting patterns, new gems, stuff that is going to interest people in getting back into these. And I would love to go back in there. I had some of my best times in those raid instances, and I would love to go back in there. I would like to actually get past the 6th boss of Nax. That would be nice. I'd like to go in there and experience some of the more interesting stuff. But I can't, because there's no reason, and you can't convince people to do it. And I don't blame people for not going in there, because, of course, there's no bloody reason. Absolutely no reason whatsoever to go in there. And I completely understand that. Absolutely, 110% I understand that. Why wouldn't I? Because I feel almost the same way. I really do. That is my suggestion, and that is going out to Blizzard themselves. If you have any comments on my suggestion, feel free to email themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. You're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. I have some music for you before I come back with yet another topic of death. This is Axon Star. This is Blind Leading the Blind. Some metal for you. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
Primed for action. Torqued to the breaking point. And fueled by 3 gallons of Noggin Fogger Elixir. This is WoW Radio.
Oh yes, the sounds of Dragon Force with Blackfire, and before that Axon Star Blind Leading the Blind here on WoW Radio. This is Blue Plz, this is TotalBiscuit, and this is a 2-week-old pizza crust. Interesting. I think I could build houses out of this. This is the hardest material known to man. Perhaps we could graft it onto someone's skeleton and then use them as a weapon. Right. Now that that nonsense is out of the way, we were just covering my idea called Return the Old, recycle old content. There's been some interesting responses to it. I'm going to read those out before I go on to my next topic, which has something to do with it, but not quite. Now, the almighty Farseer says, I agree 100% with your idea. At the moment, Blizzard is wasting the content. They seem to be looking more at what to do next rather than what's already there. They're just throwing new dungeon after dungeon into WoW. Don't get me wrong, that's a good thing, but they need to stop and take a look and give the older dungeons a kickstart with new content. I mean, that also brings up another point. What the heck are they going to do when they bring out the next expansion? It's now level 80. They're just going to waste all that as well? Don't be silly. That would be, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely not only inconceivable, but damn stupid. And you shouldn't do it. You really shouldn't. Now, Heath actually says this. It's kind of obvious that Blizzard have left it all for dead. The legacy rank content is just a PR word. It does not really hold any meaning. Something must be holding them back. With a huge mass of raids and instances and zones and newly coded bosses in Outland, I'm guessing they have mastered encounter creation. It's like a transforming madhouse that looks like it's a totally different single-player game. That's interesting. So what he's basically saying there is that the bosses are now to the complexity where they're actually from a single-player games, like, say from Final Fantasy XII or Shining Force or anything like that. And he says, my only guess is that the hardest thing for them when making new content is not the instance or the bosses, but the items they drop and their effect on the game as a whole. Retuning 4 40-man instances with 8 to 16 bosses or so in each, that's a lot of items to be math-crafted. True, although we are also aware, of course, that items are created via a numeric system. Points. It's basically the item level dictates how many points can be allocated to a set item. We saw in the latest patch that some of the higher level 70 items have had their points allocation changed in the sense that meta sockets and gem sockets have had their cost in item creation lowered, which means you can afford to put more stats in them. Hence, they've been buffed. So it's all math-crafted anyway via a system which is already in place. It wouldn't even surprise me if they could just throw in a name and have a little program spit out the stats of that item, and it would be balanced. Of course, it doesn't work all the time, but then again, what does in a game which has got umpteen number of items? And he continues, with all the changes in hybrid sets, etc., new talents and skills, the creation of new gear, at the moment, this is probably not down to a formula as it was before. I do disagree there. I say that there is still a formula. There must be, because, again, they mentioned in the patch notes, and I believe on the forums, that the reason these items were buffed is because they had the points required to have slots in them reduced. Not even starting on sockets, as he goes on to say. Tier BOE would be a great idea, but just think of someone who lost their job, as I did, getting high-tier armor, seeing someone running around in my old gear with a bind on equip tag on it, farming gold for not farming gold for IGN. Just as a disclaimer, IGN is not a gold farming service. You're looking at IGE there. I do see your point there, because I kind of had the same feeling, but also, it doesn't matter what gear they're wearing when they're farming gold, for the love of God. If someone's farming gold, it needs to be banned, tier 3 or otherwise. I can understand that, but I think that, to be honest, it's a very positive way of doing things. And we also have Nola, who's emailed in saying, I like the idea of making these dungeons more worthwhile, but especially if retuning is done only for numbers rather than for level. I think that especially in the case of AQ and Nax, it would be great to level to 70 through these dungeons. That's an interesting idea. However, if you're using a dungeon for leveling, you need plenty of quests. I never got a chance to raid that high at 60, but I don't think there were as many quests for those dungeons to say strat. You would be correct in that assumption. There aren't all that many at all. Some of them are actually inside, and they're basically quests which involve handing in tokens in order to get loot. That's a particular case in AQ40, and to some degree, of course, Nax. Now, he also says, so, if we bear in mind that the AQ and Nax gear is in line with 60-whatever gear, why not make this gear available through quests instead of tokens? It might make it easier to get, but it's not the best gear out there anymore. Also, the extra experience given would give a good incentive to people to return if they don't like soloing. Interesting idea. That's not a bad idea at all. So yeah, this is the idea I'm going to be putting forward. I might actually sit down and write this. I actually write all the possible caveats down and maybe publish it somewhere. Not that I can publish it on the forums, because I'm banned! But I'll get someone else to post it, it's all good. So yeah, I kind of like the idea. I think it's probably the best thing I've come up with in at least... Well, yeah, when was the last time I did come up with something good? I can't remember. Yeah. Peanut butter, chocolate, and jam in an onion together at last. That was my last good idea. Now, let's get on with it. Recently, as you're probably well aware, D&T and Nihilum are back in the race. They're almost neck and neck as it happens. They were wiping on the same boss in Serpent Shrine. And I recently got information from Eki saying that they got their first boss in I down to 17%. Whether they've killed him now, I do not know, but I haven't heard an announcement of it. If Eki would like to correct me on that, that would be very, very cool. So, the problem is, though, they were wiping on the same boss, and it despawned for both of them. Now, D&T got theirs respawned by GMs. Nihilum did not. But they both submitted the same kind of ticket. They said, this boss is despawned. We'd like it to be respawned, please. Here's the bug, here's the issue. Raid reports it. D&T, yeah, we'll fix it for you. We'll respawn it. Nihilum, no, you gotta wait till Wednesday. Soft reset. Wait, whoa. Where's this disparity coming from, I might ask? We had a similar problem back with, I believe... Oh yeah, Kel'Thuzad! It despawned, I think, for D&T. It despawned for both, actually, come to think of it. And if I remember correctly, the US GMs had people working through the weekend trying to fix it for them, whereas for Nihilum, it didn't happen. Now, this shows a huge disparity in policy, and that's what I'm going to address right now, in a topic that I like to call, and I've started making up this really long topic, so it sounds like I actually know what I'm talking about. It's great. I'm calling it the EU and US GM disparity, the hypocrisy of putting endgame up front as the most important thing in WoW, and then not giving it the live support it needs to run smoothly, in an area where world firsts are paramount and you're dealing with serious raiders, your best customers. Yep, that's my title. It's very good. Now, let's investigate that for a moment. What are GMs for? Well, GMs are supposedly for dealing with issues within the game that players can't deal with. We're talking about abuse, banning bots, fixing things, yeah? Fixing things. Now, what is the most important thing within World of Warcraft from your perspective? Now, in my honest opinion, and this is what's been put out there by Blizzard for a very, very long time, the most important thing, the ultimate goal in WoW is endgame. Endgame. Get as far as you can. Get as many loots as you can. It defines you as a man. Well, it's to some degree true, isn't it? It defines your character in the sense that you get this amount of gear. That defines what your character is. It defines how far your character has gone. It's like a badge of honor. You get respect from it. You gain access to better guilds in it. If you have so much experience, you're not going to get into this guild, but if you have more experience, well, maybe you will. Blah, blah, blah. Ad infinitum. Now, here's the weird thing. If you've got something that important, and you have content which has pretty much been untested, and let's face it, it has been. You know, Serpent Shrine, the Eye, pretty much untested, because, of course, there's only a handful of guilds thrashing on it right now. Understandably so. Now, surely, the priority for GMs should be to pay attention to that, rather than pay attention to Little Miss Bitchalot, who says, I deleted my item because I was drunk and or on crack. I want it back. Or he said something very nasty about me. Why can't we have a dedicated team to deal with the morons who think that a GM is the only way out of a social conflict, and have a dedicated team that actually concentrates on the important things, like fixing endgame? Now, if your instance does not work correctly, there are two options. Either you fix it, or, for the time being until you fix it, you have someone manually fix it. Those are your two options. There are no other options. There is not a leave it till Wednesday option. That isn't in the book. That's not in the manual that says good customer service. It's not in the manual that says, well, we're putting out this as the biggest thing in WoW yet. Except it doesn't work properly. Again. I mean, good lord, how many bosses have we had bugged? This debacle happened with Kel'Thuzad, and I would have thought they'd have got it into their fixed goals that this was what you need to do. And I'm sorry, but I have not had great experience with GMs. I really haven't. I know for a fact that most of them don't even play the game properly. Most of them don't know what to do. Here's an example. On an interview with the GM of Curse that we had a while ago, he told us a very interesting story about a problem that they had with Nefarian when he bugged out. And what was the question? Did your hunter's pet solo Nefarian? That was what the GM actually said. I mean, do you even know what Nefarian is? For the love of God, what did you think? It was a player? A 5-man boss? What are you talking about, you blithering fool? I mean, seriously. How do they train these people? And I think that the disparity between EU and US in this case, that's two separate examples. In fact, that would probably be 3 separate examples, if you count the Curse one as well, of EU GMs not doing as well as US. Now, I'm not going to lump them all into a pot and say they're all idiots, because obviously they're not, because that would be a very silly stereotype. But I'm saying that there's enough of them in there that are dealing with these queries. I mean, surely you should escalate tickets like this to people that actually know what they're doing. Surely it should be departmentalised. You've got your experts who deal with endgame and endgame only. You've got your frontline GMs who say, right, okay, I can't deal with this for some reason or another. I mean, to be honest, you should be able to do it anyway. Respawning, we're well aware of how it works. If anyone's actually read the XGM thread on the Something Awful forums, It's of an ex-GM who's telling us all this great stuff, and he says that they've got a command line interface and they've got various things they can do. Respawning a boss is one of them. Killing a boss is another. They can do it. All of them can do it. Yet, for some reason, they're not willing to do it. Now, why is that? It shows a very odd disparity. Here's some more examples. Kiki's guild recently did Heroic Mechana, and they killed the final boss, and they got an epic gem drop. Now, epic gems, these ones are unique, yeah? You can only have one of them, supposedly. So if you've already got one, you would have thought you wouldn't be able to roll in it. But no, in fact, it was the other way around. The person who'd already had one is the only one that can see it. The only one that can actually roll on it. So immediately they contacted GM. GM responds almost immediately. Yes, I can see the kill right now. I'm looking at you right now. I can see that you've killed it. That's cool. I'm going to escalate the ticket, get you sorted out. Half an hour later, they come back to him and said, I'm sorry, we couldn't confirm that you killed this boss. You can't have your loot. I'm like, you what? One GM just said that they could find it, and then the other says that they can't? What's up with this? I don't know how the internal procedure works, but there is something seriously amiss. Seriously amiss. Good Lord in heaven. It would be nice for it to be departmentalised and have people dealing with this. I really very much doubt it is. I think it's just one homogenised mess of customer service staff who really would rather they weren't there. And that's understandable. I've done customer service. I know how annoying it can be. When I get someone coming into my shop with a DS that's snapped in half and wires sprayed out of it and said, yeah, the top just fell off it, I'd like a refund. I know how stupid it can be. But then again, I just say bugger off. And then attend to another customer who has a more important and valid concern. Or, if they don't like it, I refer them to the complaints department. In my store, the complaints department is a long, 5-foot-long stick with the word complaints department written on it. Now, I'll give you 3 guesses as to what I would do with that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not happy with that. I really not. And I really do feel for Nihilum and any other guild that's had to suffer this incompetence. Why can't you fix it? Why does this disparity even exist? And I think there's a massive amount of hypocrisy there in the sense that, Blizzard, if you're going to put this out as the biggest thing in WoW and the thing which people expect to spend the most time on, you need frontline, top-notch service to deal with any problems there might be. I'm not expecting you to release bug-free content. Because I know that it's millions upon millions of lines of code, something could go wrong, you can't internally test it as well as you would expect. But you would at least expect there to be handymen on there. It's like installing a central heating system. Like saying, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait till Wednesday without any heating whatsoever, and then we'll go and completely replace the system for you. Whereas I would say, well, it's just a leaky pipe. Why don't you just come in and fix the pipe, and then at a later date you can come in and replace the system? That will keep me going. A manual reset of the system will do. It's like, yes, you can have a stopgap solution in this situation where time is of the essence. World firsts are incredibly important. Hugely important within World of Warcraft. People get really hyped up about them. I said this last week, and I believe that's justifiable because that is what Blizzard have put out there as the most important thing. And if you don't give proper service, you're gonna be in trouble. Because I've seen guilds, the hardcore, the top-notch, the cream of the crop, complaining, and it's like, well, what if those guilds do leave? Okay, so for Blizzard, the way that they look at it is they've lost some money. Well, what about the rest of the community? That's a massive impact on the Realm community. If Nihilum likes Magtheridon, what do you think Magtheridon would do? Magtheridon might be a little bit narked off about that, because they're an integral part, and maybe even a pivotal part of their community. These are the kind of people you really do not want to annoy. And you should be helping them to the best of your ability. On that theme, we have some Nubcake News. You're listening to WoW Radio. This is Blue Plz, and this is TotalBiscuit. Email your opinions to themurloc@gmail.com. Here we go. Nubcake News! Stop that. Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later in the show, Kittens with Mittens, the Silent Killer. Plus the latest sports roundup from our arena correspondent, Russell Crowform. But first, complaints have been flooding in about popular soap opera World of Warcraft and its particular illicit brand of customer service. For the benefit of those of you unfamiliar with this popular sport, we will be providing a new rock for you to live under. But in the meantime, we will make you aware that customer service is dealt with by so-called GMs, a rare breed of vole found somewhere in the tropics and caged and enslaved for Blizzard's purposes. We at Nubcake News are not powerful or frightening enough to deal with this problem and are proceeding to the nearest desk, under which we will cower until further notice. However, there is but one person who can. It is my pleasure and outright terror to introduce the Titan of television, the thermonuclear missile of consumer affairs, host of the program Watchdog, Mrs. Anne Robinson. We interrupt this broadcast for an important announcement from the Department of Humour Enforcement. We must make our listeners aware that the preceding joke, a reference to an infamous BBC Consumer Complaints programme, will in fact only make any sense whatsoever to UK listeners. As such, in the interests of funny, we are now replacing it with something more recognisable. Thank you for your attention.
Welcome to The Weakest Link.
Druids, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. Now to Consumer Affairs. Watchdog has been reliably informed by an extremely irate grandmother from Edinburgh that Blizzard Entertainment, who are well known to be in league with Satan himself, have been providing subpar customer service. As part of our ongoing investigation, which acts strictly in the interest of our ratings, the public, we sent one of our undercover operatives to the nearest phone to attempt to gain redress for a simple problem within the game. The results were shocking.
Welcome to Blizzard Customer Service. All of our operators are currently busy devouring the flesh of the innocent at the moment. Your call is vitally important to the survival of the species and will be answered shortly. Thank you for continuing to hold. Have you considered trying a different game? If so, we can help. Our complete program of mind-altering psychotropic therapy is suitable for all ages and will ensure that you never have such blasphemous, heretical doubts again. Praise be to the Emperor. You're through to Blizzard Customer Service. How may I misdirect your call?
Yes, I'm having a bit of an issue. You see, the boss in our 25-man raid...
Hold, please.
Okay.
You're through to the World of Warcraft department. How may I fail to help you?
Yes, I'm having an issue with the boss in our 25-man raid encounter. It seems that it's despawned and...
Hold, please.
Right.
Absolutely clueless, but nonetheless polite and trying to help department. How may I bungle your ticket?
Yes, our guild is in Serpent Shrine right now, and we just had the lurker despawn on us, and we can't get him back. Is there any chance you can come along and reset him?
Have you tried restarting your computer?
I'm sorry, what?
Your computer. Have you tried rebooting it? You can reboot your computer by selecting Shutdown from the Start menu.
Look, I'm sorry, there's been some kind of mistake. You see, we're trying to get a boss to respawn.
Hold, please.
Grrr.
Witless GM with vague endgame knowledge from the one time he accidentally worked into Molten Core department. How may I misinterpret your request?
Yes. I wonder if you can help me. The lurker has despawned in Serpent Shrine, and we want to get him to respawn. Can you come along and reset him for us?
Ah, yes, that shouldn't be a problem. Just a few questions. Did your hunter pet solo the lurker?
I don't think that you quite understand what we're trying to do. We haven't killed the lurker. We just want him to be respawned so we can try him again.
After you've looted the body, you must wait for the instance to reset before you can attempt him again.
But we haven't killed him yet.
You must kill the boss in order to receive your loot. We would suggest you try him again, perhaps using consumables this time.
But that's what we're trying to do, but he's not there anymore.
Congratulations on felling the foul demonic lurker. Good luck in your future encounters in Serpent Shrine.
No, goddammit, put me onto someone who knows what they're talking about.
Hold, please.
WTF.
You're through to the Department of Placebo-Style Blithering. How may I placate you today?
Look, we're in Serpent Shrine right now on the Boulder Fist server, and we need the lurker respawn because he's bugged out. Can you help us?
Absolutely, this will not be a problem. We just need you to stand outside the instance for 20 minutes while we reset it for you.
No, we don't want the entire instance reset, we just want that boss respawning.
Thank you for your call. Your instance has now been reset ahead of schedule. Good luck on Hydros.
No, goddammit, why did you just do that? We wanted our boss respawned.
Hold, please. This is Blizzard Customer Service. How may I misdirect your call?
Didn't I just talk to you?
Hold, please.
Our fortunate consumer proceeded to explode after this incident. We called Blizzard Entertainment for a comment, and they had this to say.
We are very sorry for the state of the carpet after the spontaneous explosion of one of our valued customers. As compensation, we are sending this customer a box of chocolates and a voucher for 2 months free playtime. We hope that she is satisfied and will accept our sincere apologies. Thank you for playing World of Warcraft.
A stunning result for our consumer team, proving once again that companies quake in fear before the might of Anne Robinson. Fear Anne Robinson, worship Anne Robinson, feed defenseless baby animals to Anne Robinson. This has been The Weakest Link. Goodbye.
Computer-enhanced, digitally mastered, and completely downloadable. It's the really hyperactive and totally interactive WOW Radio. WCRadio.com.
yes, the sounds of Captain Dan and the Scurvy Crew. Blackbeard's Treasure, probably the best track in my honest opinion. You can download that for free. MySpace.com/Captain Dan, head over there. And we have, of course, CDs to give away, courtesy of Captain Dan and non-existent records. This is the last time I'm going to announce this. After this, you have 1 week, due to popular demand, to get your stuff in. I want your best pirate impression. Send it to themurloc@gmail.com. Record it on your mic. I don't care what the quality is like. Do your best pirate impression. Send it to themurloc@gmail.com with the subject line, "Where is their RP?" Yeah, my pirate impression sucks. Yours could be better and it could win you a prize. So, I have 9 minutes left before the mighty Octail and Hordak take over. Quite literally take over, I might add. I wouldn't mess with them. So, what do we got? Well, I've got a quick reminder. Dig the shows, people. As you might be aware, the way dig.com actually works, it's an awesome promotional tool. But if you don't dig anything for 2 weeks, your previous dig disappears. But it reappears if you dig something else. So the best thing you can do is log in every week when I put a new show up, or when we put a new show up on WoW Radio, and dig it. I know your digs will stay there. We've dropped quite a few digs because of that, which kind of sucks, and I'd like to be a little bit higher. So go do it. Check out our shows page, wcradio.com/shows. Register for dig, it takes all of 20 seconds, and dig the shows. Oh yes. Nice and easy, helps promote the station, and we will love you for it forever. Right. I have my last topic of the day. And this is what I would like to call my
Second wind.
For next week. This is what I will be continuing on next week. A second win for this week. I'm going to cover it briefly, get some food in your brain, and then you can think about it over the week and email me with some answers for next week. Isn't it awesome? It's like that kind of whole user content thing where I get the audience involved and there's all happy kittens and everyone sounds... yeah. Anyway, second win for next week. That was, of course...
Second wind.
just because I really like the sample. Anyway, second win for next week. Crafting. Very, very general area. Now, here's some things I'd like you to think about. This is your homework for next week. I'd like you to think about, to what extent has legacy crafting, and I'm using that word again, as in pre-TBC, anything below 300, to what extent has that been abandoned? Now, is there a disparity between low-level jewel crafting and its usefulness and low-level stuff in other professions? Because, for instance, in jewel crafting, you can craft things which are actually quite nice. Good stuff for alts. Not just good stuff for alts. Good stuff for lower-level players. And then when, of course, you get to level 300, you can start cutting gems and all that good stuff. Now, is there a disparity between the two? Is jewel crafting more useful? Is jewel crafting less useful? Is jewel crafting just about as useful or useless pre-300? Now, as regards to crafting in general, do you think that they could have done more to revitalise crafting? Now, you can look at crafting right now, you can say, yeah, there's some really good stuff with crafting. Say, that tanking weapon, the Fire Guard, which can be upgraded. Stuff like the Lionheart Blade. That stuff can be upgraded as well. There's a lot of upgradable stuff and stuff that's craftable, which seems to be quite good. But have we just gone back around to the days of the Arcanite Reaper? The days when you could craft stuff, which was pretty good, until people got into Molten Core and then realised, oh yeah, I can get the Spinal Reaper. Or I can get the Obsidian-Edged Blade, or any other number of things which are really unpleasant and kick the living snot out of the Arcanite Reaper. So, have we returned back to that particular world? Is it just going to be a case of, yeah, all this craftable stuff's pretty good for a while, but then it's just going to go out the window when you get raidable stuff? Is that acceptable? Now, they've done some fundamental changes, like specialization, particularly with alchemy. The way that alchemy works, you can specialize in elixirs, potions, and transmutes, if I remember correctly. And if you specialize in transmutes, you get a chance of getting more for your money. If you specialize in, like, elixirs and all that kind of thing, you can get more for your money there. And you can also have a chance of unlocking some recipes completely at random. Is that random system good? Do you agree with it? I mean, I quite like it, but then again, I'm not an alchemist, and no doubt I'm not going through the frustration of trying to get these recipes just through pure pot luck, rather than through actual effort expended. Understandably, that's a bit of a sore point with crafters right now. I can certainly see why. What about enchanting? Enchanting is pretty much the same as it always was. Only it's even more expensive to do it. I'm still trying to level my enchanting up, and I was 300 enchanting before the Burning Crusade, and I'm only at 350 now, and it's obscenely expensive. Good lord. It really is. Is that acceptable? Why on earth have they not put in scrolls yet that you can enchant and sell on the auction house so you don't have to stand around Ogrimmar for 3 hours trying to peddle your wares to people who say, well, you're only just clicking a button. I'll give you the mats and you can do it for free. How about I don't do that and I actually prefer to keep it as a trade skill rather than as a charity giveaway to you, you annoying little bastard skill? Yeah. What about that? What about the way Primal Nether works? This mystical BOP material that appears in heroic and high-end instances. What about the fact that most of the recipes now involve you getting reputation? All the flasks, if you want to reroll alchemy, now to get flasks, you've got to go and get these huge amounts of rep with various different factions. Is that acceptable? Is it not? It's an interesting situation. I will expand on it in next week's show. Email themurloc@gmail.com with your opinions. I have 3 minutes and 45 seconds for shout-outs. You will PM, you will email me right now. Right now, I tell you. Just do it. So get your shout-outs in to me. themurloc@gmail.com or PM me on IRC. And of course, you will get your shout-out. Now I have a shout-out right here. Shout-out to the 4 of us in Default Riders who downed Edwin Van Cleef with a Druid Tank level 15, Priest Healer level 16, Shaman level 16, and Warlock level 18. Those are Druid, Kosapaki, Kura, and Capiban on Scarshield Legion. P.S. Only Vent Good Organisation saved us from certain death. As the Druid Tank was wearing full grey gear. Lol. Oh, good lord. A shout-out to Dingo Tar, level 70 Orc Warrior on the Hellscream. Hey, TB, this is my first time live listening. I would like to say, great show. I would like to have a shout-out to my guild, Stinky Monkey Finger, oh, good lord, on Hellscream EU. It grants to Pickle for completing the run to 70. She's an awesome GM and helps keep us together and mildly sane. And mildly sane, indeed. A shout-out to someone special. Hey, TB, can you please get a shout-out to my wonderful girlfriend, Shannon, a.k.a. Angel, who's been sitting with me listening to your show. Oh, how sweet. I know you don't normally get shout-outs like this. Sadly, no. I know for a fact that there's loads of people who actually sit around and do that. But I never get shout-outs like that. Give me more shout-outs like that, damn it. I know you don't normally get shout-outs like this, but can tell you I love her and I'm glad she chose me. Keep up the good work. That's from Matthew, a.k.a. Grondus, level 61 Hunter on Grimbatol EU. How sweet. A shout-out to Luku the Belfadin, and now happily blasting towards level 32, and his fiancée. Oh, well done. Congratulations, Ina. A shout-out to Werner Bugel on Rune Totem EU, Umkin for the win. Snorky Yoki shout-out. Shout-out to the RP community on Steam Wheel Cartel, EU RP realm, and to the Ruin Battle Group. Don't send me DCC chat. I will stab you in the face. RC just went boom. Shout-out to Masan, Ice Crown US, level 70 Paladin, for getting my epic flying mount, /flex/sleep. Good lord. If you're going to name 3 different types of food as 25-man raid boss encounters in WoW, what foods would it be? Jaffa cakes, lime Jaffa cakes, and blackcurrant Jaffa cakes. That's all you need to know. Cheers for reading out my shout-out, mates, from Dingatar. What else we got? A shout-out to my imp named Gelpad. I have screenshots. That's from EO. A shout-out, by the way. Arcane needs to be in Kitty stealing jail for stealing my kitten. Slap him for me, TBO, and shout out for Thunderhorn EU and Cake Guild. What are you people on about? You're insane. A shout out to the Hellfire Reapers on Airy Peak. That's from Larvik. A shout out to Bladescope on VentureCo for being greater than Shervan. That's a level 70 Alliance rogue. Can I have a shout out to PG on Terminus, who will beat Morose again? It isn't hard, guys. Fight, fight, fight. Yes, that's from Warforce. TB, can I have a shout out for Toasterbot, the Warlock, on Bloodhoof, who dinged 70 this weekend from Vortex, the Gnome Lock. A shout out to Crimson Circle Guild on Silvermoon EU, and to Metal! You love Metal, that's from Risebane. A shout out to Pirates of the Caribbean for having Karazhan and Grill's Lair on farm stats and having the Serpent Shrine, that's from Rygar. Congratulations to you. A shout out to me for being 25% until I ding 70, that's from... Stop that microphone, you ill-behaved little mollusk. Until I ding 70. That's from Jamro of Ravencrest. Shout out to Ariana for including my name at the beginning of Blue Plz. That's from Mittens. Actually, that was me, but there you go. A shout out to Terry's Chocolate Orange Love Beastie. Or Terry's Chocolate Orange Love Beastie. I'm scared. I'm off. Octel and Hordak coming up next. Listen to our podcast, download our shows. It's all good. WCRadio.com. Dig our shows. Donate to our station. Get on our IRC channel. Post on our forums. Dance a merry jig. Octel and Hordak coming up right now. This has been Blue Plz. I've been TotalBiscuit. Enjoy. You've been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, one of World of Warcraft's longest-running podcasts and shows. You can check out all the shows at wcradio.com. Be sure to dig us at dig.com if you like what we're doing, and rate us on iTunes. You can, in fact, download all of our other shows at wcradio.com. Click the downloads button of the